Hello, this is Joe Moriarty, CEO of Raven 360, and thank you for another edition of the Training-Led Growth video podcast. I have a very special guest with me today, currently sitting in Aberdeen, Scotland. Chris Hurd, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Joe.
Really appreciate it. Chris has an amazing business and an amazing idea. It's incredibly topical right now in this world macro environment we're in, where people are hunkered down at home. The company is called Firstbase, and we're going to get into that and talk about it pretty extensively. Before we get to Firstbase, Chris, thanks again for coming, and please introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about where you're from and your background and what led you down the path to Firstbase.
Yeah, so I was sort of born in Scotland, educated there, thought I was going to be a professional soccer player. Got a bad injury before I realized I was never going to be good enough, which forced me to focus on academics, which was probably in retrospect the best thing that ever happened to me. Studied architecture, graduated in 2013, moved into the oil and gas industry, was fairly quickly project managing large multinational, multi-million-dollar construction projects. And pretty quickly realized that wasn't the most intellectually stimulating challenge in the world. So started doing a lot of other things out with that. Wrote a blog that grew to about 40,000 followers on Medium. That led me to connect with early stage startups in the UK, big startups, venture capital funds. And yeah, basically late 2017, looked to transition to my next career move. Interviewing at some big American companies, talking to MBA programs in the States, talking to a few venture capital funds, talking to a few of those startups I mentioned, and basically decided to fund my first startup, which was a fintech business in March 2018, turned down all those great opportunities and not having a salary for 18 months. So that was fun and enjoyable, and things were going relatively well there for a while. It was an asymmetric information product. We plugged into your bank, identified where you were paying more than you should be, and we could automatically switch you to a better deal. Long story short, fast forward 18 months, we came to the realization that our customer acquisition costs were too high. We were never going to make any money. And basically pivoted to Firstbase, which was an internal tool we created for ourselves. We discovered how hard it was to get a remote team set up. So we just created something to make it easy, and that really resonated with the market, which obviously brings us full circle to today, where this is a big and growing problem that a lot of businesses are facing.
You hit the nail on the head with that. I think that people are scrambling and figuring out their home environments. I feel like I live on Zoom. Here we are. But our business, Raven 360, actually embraced virtual about 1 year ago. We had a very big office space, very big footprint, and the entire building was purchased by a large US-based company. And they said, boy, we want a 7-year lease. And that just was not going to work for us. So we made that decision. We said, well, let's look at what some other great companies like Envision and other companies who've basically gone virtual from the beginning. Let's follow the model. We've done it, and it's been unbelievably successful for us. So I'm a believer. I wasn't. So let me ask you this, just to kind of, to go on, follow the vein of Firstbase and your hypothesis of virtual work. When I had to go from physical face to face to virtual, I had some fear. I had some anxiety. I thought maybe I wouldn't be able to maintain culture. What are the objections that you think people have and that they have to overcome to really embrace the virtual workplace?
Yeah, I think we hear mainly the same objections. It's, what about the water chat? Our office culture is different. What about the people who get their main social contact at work? And I think what this current situation's highlighted is just how nonsensical that is. So do you really want your main social contact to come or be dictated by your boss's hiring policy? Probably not. Is it a good thing if you're solving all the company's problem at the water cooler? Probably not. But companies sort of see these things as benefits. And it's just strange to me that we've progressed with the office and persisted with it really for so long, when it started out as the optimum workplace, and now it's like this distraction factory adults kid club where it's incredibly difficult to focus and get any work done. And yeah, for me, that's the thing. Like, the office is meant to be the best place to get the work done, which ironically is the worst place to get work done. And I think that's just been highlighted exponentially in the last couple of days or couple of weeks, where people have actually experienced it for the first time. And they've said, actually, not having to commute every day, what difference that makes to my quality of life. And yeah, look, there's a part of it is like some people are experiencing literally remote from the worst possible perspective right now. But they're still seeing benefits. They don't have to commute. They've got more time with their families. And I think for some people, they've got too much time with their families right now. But that's obviously a product of the ongoing situation that we'll get through. And I think once you get through that, kids are back at school. You don't have the same distractions. The home environment's a far better place to do deep, focused work. And if you're a knowledge worker, I think every single knowledge worker on the planet can see the benefit of that, even if it's only part-time.
I totally agree with you. And one of my biggest fears was, or actually, I should say, one of my biggest realizations I made from going remote was I had a false sense of security, and I had a false positive of productivity. I thought because people were simply in the office, they were being productive. And it gave me this sense that, oh, well, we're all here and we're all together. And this person shows up at 9 a.m. and they leave at 5 p.m. Therefore, they put in 8 hours of work. And what I realized was that was completely wrong. And by going virtual, it forced me to measure productivity in terms of output, actual objectives and key results delivered, actual written word, actual customers gained. So the project, like actually managing and seeing the fruits of the project remotely, gave me a better sense of what everyone actually did. And that to me was incredibly eye-opening. Have you seen the same?
Yeah, anecdotally, we obviously speak to a lot of companies that are in the process of transitioning. They have already transitioned, or they are not sure about doing it. And I think the reasons that they're reluctant is as much the same as you guys were, where, yeah, there's a trust issue. Can you trust your people to do work? Ironically, remote workers are far more productive than office-based workers. So that trust issue isn't really a thing. And then it's the thing that you're talking about, like, how do you transition from being time focused to output focused? And yeah, I think we've spoken to a lot of people who come to us and say, look, we made this transition. We discussed it with our teams. We understood their objections, and we made a plan to do this. We understood the processes that we'd have to change. And yeah, some of them. So actually the one that jumps to mind, I guess, is one company we spoke to. They said, we estimated, as in the management estimated, how productive people would be. We went to the team and said, how productive do you think you'll be? The team's estimate was 10% above management's. And then by Wednesday morning of the first week, everyone had finished their work.
Wow.
And that's not really that rare. I think that's almost everyone's experience of moving to remote. But you just be able to your point, you need to be able to measure that better. And then the question is, okay, well, if you were happy with them doing X volume of work in an office, should you expect them to do Y amount of work, which is more than what you were expecting previously? And yeah, I think everyone wants, look, I'm paying you for 40 hours a week. I want 40 hours of productivity. How productive are people in an office? Like 8 hours a week, 6 hours a week? I just think that transition changes the dynamic completely. And I think it takes a certain type of manager to be comfortable with that.
That's a really interesting point, in that there's so many hours in the workplace, when your physical workplace, that are lost hours,
Yep.
Walks and lunchtime and water coolers and chit chat and just the things that people do around the office. So that's really interesting. And I think that was a good highlight of this conversation, is that you really need to measure what is the actual output hour as opposed to person hour that you have.
For sure.
That's incredible. One of the other benefits that we have seen, and this goes to developing, how do you continue to develop culture or relationships when everyone is remote? Well, we also found there was a huge budget impact to not paying rent on a big physical location. I mean, that's
for sure
obvious, but to us, it made a very big impact to margin. And it allowed our team to actually get together for quarterly meetings or twice a year meetings in central locations and do some really focused, mindful work together.
Right.
We've done that, and just getting together for 2 days is like pretty neat, because you know it's focused, you're working, you have some agenda, you prepare, you socialize with each other, and then you go back to your remote space, and everyone, I feel like you can achieve that level of connection in a more condensed time. And then when you're on Zoom and you're talking to each other, you feel connected.
Yeah, like there's like almost a disease of the office right now where it leads to shallow, superficial relationships where you actually never really pay attention to that conversation. So everyone goes into the office, what did you do at the weekend? What did you do last night? Did you see the game? Yeah, I see the, like, it's just inane bullshit that nobody really cares about. And yeah, I'm not saying that people don't care about their colleagues. That's not what I'm trying to say at all. But what I'm saying is where those are less frequent, you care more about the person because it's a genuine catch up where the conversation is genuinely, how is your family? Not, oh yeah, how was, like, you know what I mean? Like everyone has that experience where the office just becomes this like inane part of our lives where we're just gambling away and wasting so much time. Like everyone talks about work-life balance, but actually the key is life-work balance more than anything else. Like to your point, how much time do we waste in meetings? How much time do we waste traveling to and from meetings? How much time do we waste sitting in a steel box, polluting the planet, commuting to the office every day? It's ridiculous. Like we literally travel to an arbitrary location to sit on a piece of equipment literally designed to be used anywhere in the world. And people accept it. It's nuts. It's literally insane.
Those are some huge points. I love, those are great. I mean, the fact that we're, driving in our metal box to get to go sit in another metal box to have these. And I totally agree that the relationships, I think you could develop deeper relationships, but the physical setting actually prevents, I think, some connection and some even prevents empathy in some ways for some people, because it's just like, well, we're here again. What's, how's your weekend? All that mundane chatter. And I find like what we have found is that then when you do get together in a planned way that's physical with some, boy, you really do say like, hey, how are you? What's happening in your life? Tell me some things that are bothering you. Tell me some happy things. And it's incredible, the actual difference. It's like you feel like a different relationship with these people. So it's so funny that we've lived through this, and I think a lot of the people, hopefully, that will watch this can listen and learn a little bit and say like, no, actually, things are better. I'm very curious. from a kind of a macroeconomic level. Do you think this is going to force a shift? Well, I think it will, but do you think it's going to force a shift to more virtual and more remote just because of what we're going through with the COVID-19?
Yeah, my personal take on where the pulse is right now is that this is probably accelerated remote work by a decade in 10 days, like literally. And this is on a number of different fronts. So for companies, they're coming to the realization that actually we don't need real estate. It's ridiculous to pay $1,500 per desk per person in a big city where they don't need to be there. But then they've got the added point of actually it's really difficult and competitive to attract great talent. If we've got a physical location, we can only hire the best person in a 30-mile radius. That kind of sucks. And then they're going to have the problem. Everyone goes back to work and they say, can we work remotely? And the company says, no, you're not getting to anymore. All those people will just go, well, see you later. I'm going to our biggest competitor because they're giving me remote opportunities. So the problem's like multifaceted. And the reason that remote first companies are going to be, they're going to be far more cost efficient. To your point earlier, you don't have to pay for real estate. And they're going to be far more talented because with every hire, they're able to hire someone more talented than they could get in a city for a far higher cost. And that's just going to accelerate that. Like all the smartest people I know personally plan to work remotely this decade, if not immediately. All the smartest founders I know plan to hire remotely this decade, if not sooner, based on this. And I think that's just got this unique confluence of circumstance where The smartest people want to do it. The most talented people want to do it. The most exciting companies want to do it. And companies that aren't going to do it are going to be left with people who can't or don't want to work remotely. And they're going to be left with a higher cost of having the provision for that as well.
When we were physical location, Boston, Massachusetts based, had to hire within a 25-mile radius, typically because the traffic was too bad for people to come that were any closer. So we were really limited in the people based on that population. Since it's virtual, I've hired in Toronto, I've hired in California, I've hired in Ohio. I actually think there's an opportunity to hire people globally, right? So I'll hire in Dublin, in Scotland, in France, and Italy, China, India. We also have a 35-person team in India, right? So we've kind of embraced it from that perspective. Now, I will say, India infrastructure and India culture is a little bit behind, and people actually are very tuned in still to working in the office. So that region geographically is still very dialed into the office setting. That I think will change, but I think it's more of that's because of an infrastructure and internet wiring issue more than a productivity issue. But this week, India just came down and said, look, you cannot leave your house for 21 days. So
and I think the reason that some countries in the East or some cities in the East transition is because of the pollution problem. They've got such high density in cities. They've got such high density in terms of volume of traffic that the air is literally unbreathable in some cities. So for them, it makes sense that every person they get to work from home isn't contributing to the increase of that pollution, which obviously the coronavirus has shown. You see those snapshots of like satellite images of cities.
Unbelievable.
It's insane. And you just think, well, people are living in that. They're living in these high cost of living cities with a relatively low quality of life, and they don't have much disposable income. Remote work's a massive opportunity to transition away from that. People aren't shackled to these cities where the high paying jobs are, because actually, to your point, the high paying jobs can be anywhere. And by not being remote, companies will disqualify themselves from 99.9% of the talent globally, and they just won't be able to compete, or they won't be competitive from a talent standpoint because of that.
Yeah, I'm very curious what will happen to commercial real estate in general. I think economically it could be a problem, but I think at the same time it's an opportunity to perhaps repurpose a lot of space to change the way the cities are architected in general. I think it'd be very interesting. Do you have any thoughts on just what could happen if you're going to look 20 years down the road? Have you thought about that?
Yeah, so my degree is literally in architecture, and I spent a lot of time thinking about the future of cities. And I guess my thesis on it is that cities will be in part unbundled. And by that, I mean that I don't mean that people will leave cities. I mean that people will stay in cities for very specific parts of their lives, and they'll spend different periods of their lives elsewhere. Moving to the more rural locations, probably increasing the quality of schooling in those specific places because there's a higher density of people there who have got children of that age. But yeah, cities aren't going anywhere. That's not what I'm trying to say with my thesis on the remote work. I just think it changes to a different relationship. So offices will still exist to a point. Companies will scale down their footprint massively. They'll let the vast majority of people work from home probably 3 or 4 days a week. And what office spaces will become is like showrooms or experiential places that people go to for meetings or to show off the product, or just for those collaborative pieces that I think people struggle to comprehend or can actually be done virtually. But I suspect that architecturally, that's how cities will develop in the next 20 years or so.
It would be amazing if a lot of the cities then moved to more pedestrian-friendly, bike-friendly areas. Obviously not only to impact pollution, but just to impact health in general for our population globally. I mean, there's European cities that are so much far advanced than U.S. cities in terms of pedestrian, bicycle, all of that infrastructure. There are lanes that are better, less car traffic. I think that all of that's great just for health, for wellness, for mindfulness, all of the things that I think is so topical right now. And it'll come back, like you said earlier. Like we will be back, and people will be together again. And we're in this really unique period that this is getting forced. But I think, as you said, Chris, that this is going to be a massive jumpstart to a new way of working, and I like it. I mean, I'm a huge advocate.
Yeah, and I think for me personally, that's the hope. So we never started out building a remote company. We were building a different company, as I alluded to, and the decision we took at the start of that was to be remote for the very reasons we're talking about. We could hire better talent. We could be more cost efficient. We're not wasting money on offices. But actually, fundamentally, it was I never wanted to commute 25 days a year. I never wanted to waste that much of my life just sitting in a car. I wanted more time with my daughters and my family. I wanted more time to do my hobbies. I wanted, just more opportunities. My CTO was about to have his first child. He wanted to see him laugh for the first time and walk for the first time. And I think, there's something not right with the current expectations around work, wasting 10 hours a week commuting, not seeing your family, not being able to focus on your well-being, not being able to improve your health, eating badly, living in expensive cities. So I think remote work in a sense can be a reaction against that in a lot of ways. But the implications obviously are that it increases the quality of life for people so fundamentally that I think many people actually struggle to believe the difference it makes. And everyone sees people, I think, evangelizing about how great remote work is. And I think that's maybe just the benefit of what this situation is going to bring, that actually the people talking about remote work haven't been lying. It actually is a really great benefit in terms of your life-work balance. And hopefully that for me is what I hope comes out of this.
So tell us all about Firstbase. What exactly do you guys provide? How do you help accelerate? What do you do?
Yeah, so we really help companies in a few ways. So the first part is that Firstbase is an all-in-one provisioning platform that helps companies provide a great at-home remote working experience. So we seen there was a lot of what we would call sexy remote working tools, the communication tools, the collaboration tools, the documentation tools, super fast internet, infrastructure, the things that were necessary to enable remote work. That problem had largely been solved. And what's left or what's missing is a whole half of remote work focused on people, experience, culture, and how do you give them the platform to do great work on top of. Everyone knows that you're able to do good work in an office because they give you the right tools and equipment and all that stuff. And that's really what we're focused on. How can we empower those companies to provide a great at-home remote work experience where workers are safer, more comfortable, more productive at home than they could possibly ever be in an office, while the company gets the benefit of saving on real estate, being more cost efficient, all that stuff.
So I can go to Firstbase and I can set myself up for a comfortable, productive, at-home work experience. What does that mean? What does that exactly mean?
Literally what you're sitting on right now. So all the equipment you need, the hardware, everything from the moment that you sit down to do your work, we would take care of. So we're focused on what are the tools you need to have that best possible experience. Everyone talks about, or everyone remembers the first time they opened, I'll use Apple products, for example. You open the Apple product, it almost sucks in because the packaging's so tight. You pick the phone up, it just works. It's a great experience from the moment you buy it in the store to the moment you take it home, unbox it, and start using it. And for us, that's the level of experience we're looking to help companies give their remote workers operating at home.
So we're talking about set me up with the right chair, set me up with the right desk. Give me a desk I can stand at, I can sit at, give me the communication, give me everything I need to just be comfortable and productive.
Yeah, literally everything you need and then much more as well. So I suspect companies have got certain things that are ingrained to their or a poster that you send out to everyone to put on their wall. Literally, how can we make this as easy as a company touches a button, everything's taken care of?
I think that's super smart. I'm fortunate enough. I have a wife who's a designer. So I have a beautiful, she creates this beautiful work environment for me. But if it was just me, I need help. I need
Sitting at your kitchen desk.
I don't even know where I'd be sitting. I would be probably pacing. I'd be pacing around. But no, seriously. And so when I could go out to first base, I could get everything I need. It would feel. I mean, frankly, I love design too. I'm just not very good at it. So yeah. I like art. I like things that are designed well. I love the Apple product and how it works. So I'm a huge. I could be a huge user of everything that you guys do because it's like. Plus, by the way, you save everybody time, right? You save everybody time, but you just come out and say, look, in a box, set yourself up, have the best experience, comfortable, cool, productive. That's what we want. I think everybody wants that. I think it's a great value prop that you're providing too.
Awesome. Thank you.
So let me ask you a couple of further questions. One is more related to, give us, in your opinion, if someone is transitioning, what are some fundamental tips that you're going to give to somebody just to get going? And we're all in it, by the way. This is today. Today, people are working from home. They've been here for about a week, maybe 2 weeks that they've been sitting at their house. What could they be doing just to be productive, to make sure they're producing good work?
So I think for me, there's probably 3 things. The first is to have a dedicated space that you can psychologically go to know that you're in work mode. So that's on a personal basis. For companies, I think companies need to understand that they shouldn't be replicating all the bad parts of office working remotely. So what do I mean by that? Everyone knows working in office, like synchronous, the instantaneous gratification of synchronous working is that somebody can come up, tap you on the shoulder and say, help me with my stuff because I'm stuck and I can't do anything unless you help me. And you have to then turn around, leave what you're doing, go and help them, come back, and then you lose an hour of work because you can't get locked back in on what you're doing. So the real benefit of remote work is actually shifting from a synchronous first mindset to an asynchronous first mindset, having the isolation to do deep focused work. And I think a lot of people say, the isolation of remote work is a bad thing. Actually, it's a feature, like being able to get away, to turn off, to get your work done, to respond to people when you need to. You still need to be available, but rather than this being like just like a case by case basis where people just come up to you, it becomes more planned. And that's really the third part, I think, is develop the processes that empower your team to do great work. Don't just work the same status quo that isn't working in the office while pretending that it is. So don't just focus on time. How much work is your team actually getting done? Like, what should you be measuring rather than what's the easiest thing to measure because you're a bad middle manager? That's really, I think, the 3 that we focus on. I think personally, it's just having that segmentation between, okay, this is my work life. And I think it's just knowing when to turn off as well. I think the problem with remote work isn't not working enough. It's actually not, it's working too much. It's burning out. It's being too available. So I think that popular opinion or populist opinion that remote workers are at home and they're slacking and they're watching Netflix. And my retort to that would be, but how much do you know about what your guy's doing in the office? If he wants to watch Netflix, he's going to do that on the office floor. Like,
it's true. It's true. And it is true too, that I think you do have to be careful about burnout and how much you are working. I mean, just working from home for the last year, I've followed a lot of your tips and having a dedicated space, knowing, but one of the benefits of home too, is that people are productive at different hours of the day. I mean, a lot of people are super productive early morning. That's where I happen to, I think, do my best work is kind of from like 6 a.m. to 11 a.m. But a lot of people are night owls. They want to work from 6 p.m. to 11 p.m. And work and asynchronous, as you said, I think is critical. And it allows people to be, as like the hours of the day which they want to work. And to me, that's great. I love what you said about asynchronous too. Raven 360, as I think is that, we're a learning platform, but we're a virtual learning platform, an on-demand learning platform, subscription learning platform. So, we promote this because we think, look, even if you're virtual, you have to train people, you have to give people ongoing education, ongoing learning, ongoing coaching. I find one of the things that a lot of employees say is, I don't get enough coaching. One of the things that we do is provide asynchronous coaching. So you can actually allow people to learn access content, access engaging learning and then do it from anywhere, from the house, from the mobile device. You can do it from anywhere. But we also provide a little asynchronous coaching component that says, hey, Chris, show me that you know how to do this. I'll watch you through a video, do it, and then provide you feedback. And I can provide you video feedback. So it's a true asynchronous kind of coaching platform. So I was happy you said that, because it allowed me to talk about us, which is fun. I appreciate that. Hey, Chris, this has been a great conversation. I will share this hopefully, and lots of people will watch it, because I think you've provided some comfort. I think you've provided some great tips. I think that a lot of people, if they watch this, will say, that guy's really smart and he's got some really good ideas about virtual. So I appreciate it.
Lucky that we came along when we did. I think timing's obviously a lot of things, but we're just super passionate about it. Remote work has really delivered a higher quality of life to me, my family, my kids, my CTO, and that's what's important for me. Like, how can we help people break free from just wasting their lives doing things that they don't really need to be doing, and actually, how can we put them in a better position to do the best work that they've ever done in their lives? And for me, remote work's the answer to that.
Hey, fortune favors the bold, right? And you guys, I think, were out ahead of it. And I think you were doing some really great, a couple things. Tell us, I think your Twitter handle is great. Your Twitter feed is awesome. You talk a lot about this, and it's encouraging. Give us your Twitter handle.
I am at Chris_Herd, and Herd is HERD.
Great. And the company website, in case people want to see this platform you guys have, is what?
Firstbasehq.com.
Firstbasehq.com. Awesome. Chris, thank you so much for the time. Loved the conversation. Love to talk to you again down the road. And just kind of revisit. Maybe we'll provide some next tips and tricks. Let's see how long this goes. And I'd love to learn from you, and hopefully others will as well. So thank you so much again for your time.
Thanks, Joe.